it back, and another completion all the way into the end zone. Easy touchdown, St. Louis. DeMornay Pearsonell with the home folks. Here's Ta'amu on the keeper. Option play, and it's bobbled forward. Touchdown! Wow, what a recovery by Keith Ford. The St. Louis BattleHawks go to 3-1, dropping Seattle to 1-3.
What's going on, football fans? This is the XFL Show, and this is a recap of the St. Louis BattleHawks 23-16 victory over the Seattle Dragons. This is Bryant.
And this is the mobile quarterback you've been waiting for, Seattle. I'm Alan.
Mobile? I think you're mistaken, like mobile driving. That like you're very mobile throughout the season. You've been all over the place. But I don't think you have the mobility of BJ Daniels, because that came out of nowhere. That was a lot of fun to watch.
Scoot,
Alan.
scoot.
Probably the story.
BJ Daniels, scoot, man, all over the field. What a fun football player, and he was super effective. And I know I probably echo a lot of Dragons fans right now. Where's this guy been the first 4 weeks of the season, Jim Zorn?
Three and a half weeks. Alan, it was the story for the Seattle Dragons, and we'll get into that a little bit. But we got to talk about that St. Louis BattleHawks quarterback, Jordan Ta'amu, again, looking pretty good, rushing and passing the ball. One touchdown, but really a combination of over 350 yards himself.
Jordan Ta'amu, another great game. You might even call this one a breakout. This was just an excellent performance, putting the team, really the offense on his back, accounting for so much of the yardage and the big plays, becoming a problem for the Seattle Dragons defense, so much so that they're thinking about him doing one thing with that RPO action, and he's doing another. And like I've been saying, he's capable of not only, dinking and dunking, not only screen passes, but also holding on to the ball, running for a big chunk, and also throwing downfield. He did it all today, man. He looked great. And, it's a long season. He's going to be there, I think, consistently through this whole year as a contender for MVP. Right now behind P.J. Walker and Cam Phillips, but he's in the hunt.
Yeah, he really is. He's doing what he can to make this team a success. And last week we talked about his stats and how they weren't there. Well, this week they were 20 for 27, 264 yards and a touchdown. Then I mentioned on the ground, 63 yards on the ground. He had a 14-yard dash at some point as well during this game. He came, he showed what he could do. I mentioned that, if I was Seattle, I'd make him beat you. And he did. He beat this team.
And I don't want to make him. I want to take him out any way you can. You got to. He's
if you take him out,
fifth or fourth. He's the fifth or fourth highest rusher, most rushing yards of any player.
Oh, he's probably up in the
right
he might be 2 now based
Ridiculous.
on what he did today. Because I think his counterpart Jones was the leading rusher on that team, but he only got 20 yards this day. Matt Jones was on the injured list beforehand, so probably a little bugaboo there somewhere. But still, a great performance by the St. Louis BattleHawks. Before we get into that too much more, Alan, we alluded to it. Again, the story of two halves for the Seattle Dragons. This time, the first half was where they weren't really just kind of crisp. They were just doing their thing. They got a field goal. That was it. Really didn't move the ball too well in that first half. But then in came BJ Daniels, like we mentioned, the story for the Seattle Dragons, a quarterback just sitting, waiting for his opportunity, and boy, did he take advantage of it.
Yeah, the Seattle Dragons, again, showing that they're not capable of playing an entire game. And I think, again, solidifying their status, Bryant, is I think they're going to be the first or second team right out of the playoffs at the end of this season. They're talented. They have good players on defense. Steven Johnson is awesome. And then B.J. Daniels now coming in at quarterback with a great half. But maybe with him the rest of the season, it'll be a different story. We're only 4 weeks in. Only one win for this squad. But that guy went out there and showed today he's the guy that they need to be having at quarterback the rest of the year. He's too good. He's too fast. He's too athletic. And he was accurate with the football. And he was pissing off St. Louis BattleHawks defensive players. They were trying to get digs at him. I mean, when you have a player getting in defensive players' heads like that, it means he needs to be out there, Jim Zorn. So Brandon Silvers, he gave it a good go, just not accurate enough. It's time for B.J. Daniels to get his shot. the rest of the way, I think. At least next week, see where it goes. Obviously, we have a lot of football left. We're hitting the halfway point next week, Brian. But I loved as a football fan, just watching that guy out there today. Every play's hold your breath excitement because he could tuck and run. He could avoid the sack and try to get it downfield. If he figures out a way to get the ball down the field, deep balls, he could be one of, if not the most dangerous player in the league because he is that fast in the backfield.
He is, and I think some speed that we didn't know. Well, we knew existed, but not to that extent. The mobility, the creativity that can go with BJ Daniels at quarterback. I think you'll see him at least next week and probably for the foreseeable future, unless barring any injuries or anything like that. As a whole, though, Seattle only 253 yards. The St. Louis BattleHawks almost break 400 with 392. Third downs, though, this is where they always get you. It seems like the losing team's always under that 30-ish% mark. Well, that's exactly where Seattle was at. 3 for 10 today. That's just not going to get it done. Although 8 for 17 for St. Louis, that's, they're doing pretty good. I mean, there's hard for me to find any bad things going down the list here for St. Louis. Even their kicker is looking pretty impressive. He almost seems like an automatic 3.
Yeah, this team going into the Battle Dome looking like that in the second half, Brian, come on. That was impressive. I really came out of this game liking what I saw out of the Seattle Dragons, and I like the Tampa Bay Vipers last week. I just hope they keep the fight, because this is a team that definitely could compete with anybody in the XFL. Another close but no cigar game, but I thought they looked great. But we need to credit the team that won this game. The St. Louis BattleHawks came out, and they look like, again, one of the best defensive teams in this league. And now their quarterback's breaking out. He's becoming a star in this league. And you add that crowd. This is the first-place team in the East for a reason, top to bottom. They're showing that also they could play with a little grit. Maybe a little bit too much grit at times, but still I think they play pretty clean, crisp football in that regard, and they are tops of the East. This is a team that's going to be tough for DC is, if they don't get their stuff right tomorrow, there could be a big gap in this East pretty soon, Bryant.
Next week, DC hosts the BattleHawks. That's going to be a fun game to watch. All right, before we close this out, Alan, I just want to say a couple things here. What did you think about the play calling and the decision-making by Jim Zorn? He looks confused out there, if I'm 100% honest. They came up to him and asked him about that play where he went for 3. Why did he go for 3? Could have gone for 1, make it only a field goal's distance between the two teams. He seems, I know he wasn't supposed to be the play caller. He is the play caller right now. He just seems not out of his element, but just confused and doesn't know exactly what to do to help lead this team to victory.
Do you think he's actually confused, or is this just his demeanor that he seems kind of like a confused, older, adorable old man? Is that what he is?
No, I think that's what we're going with.
Or is he actually a confused
I think
coach?
a lot of the coaches are confused. Some of these rules and when to go for, when not to go for. We've talked about it countless times during the season.
You gotta just do what Winston Moss did today. You just have your plan beforehand and just like, we're doing this. We're doing this. You have to be assertive, especially in this young league. I mean, you see it out of Jonathan Hayes. He comes with a crazy battle plan on offense. I mean, really innovative and multiple stuff, but he has a plan, an actual plan. And watching Chuck Long call games is really one of the most fascinating things to me, especially since he wasn't supposed to be calling this offense. But they come in they are very confident in their play calling and their decision making, and that really is separating them. So maybe you're right. Jim Zorn isn't confident enough in himself, or maybe he's not prepared enough. I don't know what, but you're right. You see that on the screen, and you saw that difference. That's the cool thing about the XFL. We get to see that difference between the coaching staffs. Who's ready and who's not. It definitely looked like that sideline and upstairs for the BattleHawks was more prepared than Seattle was. And who could blame Seattle? They were going into the Battle Dome. They did have some elements to deal with. They had some headset issues at one point, but still, the BattleHawks came ready to play, man. Their fans came ready. They pulled out the victory. They're number 1 in the East. Seattle, though, they've got the dudes. They need to get it right. BJ Daniels, the way to go the rest of the way, absolutely.
This season's not over for either one, for the Seattle Dragons, and I meant either teams by the LA Wildcats, because tomorrow, if Dallas loses, they're still just one game back at sitting at 1-3 going into week 5. Looking ahead real quick, Alan, it doesn't get any easier for the Seattle Dragons. They're going to play that morning Saturday game in Houston. Not a great place to go when you're trying to right this ship. We talked about that with New York as well last week when they went into the Battle Dome. So Seattle is going to have some struggles going into Houston, I'm sure. Hopefully they can get some things right there.
Yeah, but Houston hasn't played a quarterback like BJ Daniels yet, and you got a whole week to prepare for that, and he's the guy. I'm not going to count Seattle out of that game, especially in terms of just making it competitive. They've really hung in there with most of the teams they've played, and I just that second half was really fun to watch as a football fan, seeing that guy out there making plays, avoiding the pressure, and really just trying to fight back in that crazy atmosphere. I'm not gonna probably end up picking Seattle to win that game, Bryant, but we'll have to see what Houston does tomorrow. But I do think that they could play with any team in this league, and I think really the two games we watched today showed that parity is well and alive in the league, as the commissioners said they intended. New York winning that game obviously proves that, and then seeing a Seattle team go in there and really compete very well, especially in the second half after some adversity, proved as much as well to me.
Two close games, two games coming to the very end. Alan, real quick, BattleHawks are going to DC. Should be a good one. If DC plays like last week, then maybe not so much, but at least a battle for first place could be on the line next week in DC.
Yeah, the showdown between these two teams, I liken it to what we're going to see tomorrow with the Texas Throwdown. This is the game in the East right now. Midway point through the season, these are the two best teams. New York is lurking, but we've seen them look really bad. We have seen DC, though, also look really bad, and we're going to have to see them bounce back against Tampa tomorrow. Right now, I'd say St. Louis is the class of the East, and barring what we see out of DC tomorrow, they definitely look like a team that also is just scratching the surface and is going to get even better. So, Cacaw is the law right now in the East. Of course, we have our recap for DC tomorrow. My opinion might change, but looking ahead to that game, I'm thinking I'm going to be cacawing all day long next week too, Bryant.
Well, you've been cacawing since we got back from St. Louis, so that's been a lot of fun.
Might be cacawing all season long. This team is damn good.
They're pretty good. Well, if we keep cacawing all season long, make sure you tune into us every single Tuesday morning, Thursday night on your favorite podcast app, XFL.com or YouTube.com/XFL. You can actually see our faces there now. Alan, that's it for Saturday. We'll be back tomorrow. Two more recaps
Texas
to cover.
Throwdown.
We have that Texas Throwdown and the DC Defenders in Tampa. Well, that's it for us here for the first day of Week 4 in the XFL. For Alan, I'm Bryant. This is the XFL Show. Remember, they're listening.